Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Greg Rugen in Houston, and this is Texas, the issue is.
It's been a drama-filled week in Austin. A lot going on with the impeachment of Ken Paxton and the drama between House Speaker Dade Phelan and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I talked to McKinney State Representative Frederick Frazier about voting to impeach one of his own county members.
How would you describe the last 2 weeks in Austin?
The last 2 weeks is like waking up every day asking yourself, what did I get myself into? and then trying to figure out what could happen next. I will tell you, it was the hardest vote I had to make of all session. And not only was it the hardest vote, it was the most heartfelt vote, because you're making a vote that is moving something into a direction that you have a feeling where it's going to go, but you need to do it in the right manners, and you have to make sure that the consequences of what you're doing or making those decisions, of making that decision, is what the district or what somebody in your position should do.
60 Republicans and 61 Democrats voted for this. That was a supermajority. It wasn't like a handful of Republicans joined Democrats and saying there's enough there. What do you make of when you come back and hear your county GOP chair and others say that now they want you and your colleagues voted out? I mean, the entire Collin County delegation in Ken Paxton's home county voted for this.
There will be a trial, and there will be the facts will come out. And you yourself should judge from what you read or hear from these facts. No different than what you heard from the articles of why we were getting to this position, of what was happening in that office. I can't stand for that. My moral compass will not let me do that. And I'm sorry, but that's where I draw the line. When I was listening to those, reading those facts, and going through the entire transcript of everything that we got to view, I said, there's enough here in my mind said there's enough here to move this to the next step. So I think that they need to do the same thing. They need to understand this is a position no one else put us in but the AG. No one else put us in this position but that office. And those whistleblowers who came forward to try to tell what was going on and have been smeared and not been able to get heard. At some point, aren't we the people supposed to give them the right for their due process? Aren't we the people supposed to make sure that those folks who were actually right, if they were, get their day in court? So that's where this comes out for me, because what if they are all victims? What if everything is right on this? And what if half of it is? I mean, what if a little bit? I mean, you can go with what ifs all day long, but there was enough evidence here to push this to the next step. And that's where we come in as a House to push this to the next step.
What do you make of this Speaker, Lieutenant Governor feud, or is it more of just the House not agreeing with the Senate and the two front guys are the ones that's basically stealing the show on this?
When you come back to the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor, there's a lot of personalities there. And then it becomes a lot of what goes on with the party. The party makes a lot of those decisions when they want to pick on the Speaker, and they use the Speaker as a kind of a punching bag. And that whether it's the crazy tweets or the mimicking him, I will say this: as much as I know about the Speaker and the other speakers that have been there, he's been absolutely fair to let everything ride and let everything work it out. Whether it's the way we do our point of orders and all of our rules, he's been completely separate from that. I've never seen him meddling with any of the stuff that folks always say he's meddling with. And I get to see that firsthand. And I know how strong Dan Patrick is on the other side. He rules that with his own way.
There are things that Republicans agree on, but you guys aren't agreeing. So how will anything pass? I mean, property tax, Dan Patrick has been tweeting up a storm saying, we're doing things the right way. You guys are saying y'all are doing things the right way. So how does it pass?
I think, the governor's going to have to put them back in a room like he did first and get them to make that agreement. There's always middle ground, right? You know what they say in this business and every business, if both parties think they got screwed, there's probably the best bill they have out there. And I think the best bill is a combination of both things that the House wants and what the Senate wants. That combination, there's enough money there. I know the compression has to be there.
A lot to unpack there. Rudy Koski, what's your one word?
Steve and I wore my Looney Tune tie for this, not necessarily for the three of us, but for this segment. So originally I was going to say anarchy, just one word, anarchy, but I decided to change that word, and my word is diversion.
Greg Grugan's going to throw a flag on the play. Grugan, what's your one word?
My word is reprehensible, defined as conspicuously bad, wrong, or offensive.
Okay, we got a lot to discuss. We'll see you on the other side of this break. The Fox Texas trio is back. Let's start with impeachment. Rudy Koski, will Republicans lose their jobs because of this impeachment vote?
You know, it really depends on who shows up at the polls. You know, historically, voter turnout has been low, even on big elections. So it just turns out on voter turnout, I think, Stephen.
All right, Greg Grugan, you know, there was a supermajority, 60 Republicans, 61 Democrats. Who gets the last laugh? Ken Paxton and the Texas GOP, or the members who voted to impeach?
Not sure, Stephen. My head is still spinning at the vitriol and open hostility being publicly blasted at House Republicans who voted for impeachment. Extremely conservative members are being called traitors and turncoats and a lot worse, and what sounds an awful lot like partial excommunication from the Texas GOP. It's almost like watching a coyote chew off its leg to get out of a trap. Look, if Texas Republicans keep casting out folks who don't absolutely toe the far right line on Paxton or Trump for that matter, they're in for some long-term trouble. That said, a 2/3 vote in the incredibly conservative Texas Senate is a hefty peak to scale, and there's very little political advantage for Dan Patrick given the blowback from the increasingly radical base. So that's my take right now.
Rudy Koski, let's transition to the special session. It appears Speaker Dave Phelan may have won round one. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get that image of the coyote that Greg just mentioned out of my mind. I'm going to change my word to chupacabra then, right? Let's get back to your question. It was a great political move Tuesday by the Speaker in the House, but it was made because the Lieutenant Governor left the back door open for the House to bolt out of because the Senate recessed first. You know, they couldn't move their border bill forward at the same time that they passed their tax plan. And before all that happened, got to remember the Lieutenant Governor spent the morning calling out the Speaker, calling out House Republicans, poking the bear. So the bear poked back, bear ate him, kind of. Well, the real fallout, I think, may involve the relationship between Patrick and Governor Abbott. The Lieutenant Governor also called out Abbott for saying that he's misinformed, supporting the House plan. So here's my question going into this new week. Has the Texas Big Three become the Three Stooges? Or is all this a ploy to do a quid pro quo to eventually get school choice tuition funding through the House? Another reason why my word is diversion. Stephen?
Greg Grugan, the final question goes to you. It appears Governor Abbott endorsed the House's version when it comes to property tax, but Dan Patrick said, okay, it still has to go through us. What does Dan Patrick have to lose here?
Look, a lot. No way Patrick lets anything through without a significant increase in the homestead exemption. I'll bet the ranch on that. Why? Because it's permanent tax relief versus the House compression plan, which we're told will eventually go away. I remember shortly before the session, Speaker Phelan came to Houston and said nearly all of the $33 billion surplus came from sales tax and none of it from property tax. So instead of rebating the money to the widest possible swath of Texans, looks like Phelan's going to give a big jackpot to corporations and big property owners.
I hate to cut you off there, Greg. That's all the time we have. To see this interview or any of our past ones, you can go to our station's YouTube channels.
And continue the conversation with us on social media.
There's no summer vacation from Texas politics, so join us next week for Texas, the Issue Is.